We stay in the governance space and also human rights because the Commissioner of SHRA, Joseph Whittal, is calling for an end to the brutalities meted out to journalists in their line of duty. On the occasion to mark the 30th anniversary of SHRA, the Commission's boss actually intimated that the fear of journalists being attacked when discharging their duties is leaving a negative impact on the delivery of their work.
Been numerous attacks on journalists in recent years, from the high-profile killing of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale to the arrest and attacks of several journalists for simply doing their jobs. The work of the Ghanaian journalist has become a dangerous venture. Speaking at the 30th anniversary of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, Joseph Whittal, who heads the commission, expressed concern about the telling effect these attacks on journalists could have on their work.
We must also do more to improve freedom of speech and the media, and in so doing, improve our ranking on the Press Freedom Index.
Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications and Media Rights Advocate Kenneth Ashigbe, who also spoke at the event, called for an end to the incessant attacks on the press and highlighted the important role journalists play in the country.
When you have the case in which the skull of my colleague from Multimedia has been broken by the police in the CID headquarters itself, then you should be worried. When you have the situation when one of my staff, and when I was at Graphic, was beaten by one of our celebrity footballers and his brother, and nothing happens to them, you should be worried.
The attacks on journalists mirror Ghana's performance on the World Press Freedom Index. The country has dropped more than 30 places on the list since 2021, falling from the 30th to 62nd position.
And of course, we'll be bringing you some updates and fallouts from that engagement on human rights here in the country. But we know that in a few days from now, the district level elections will be kickstarting across the country. And of course, we will be bringing you some interactions with the aspiring, local assembly members who have been sharing their concerns. But just before we take you around the country and bring you some of the experiences going on, there's a need for us to also talk about the NCCE, which is on a drive asking for increased political participation in this season. Joining us in studio now is the chairperson of the commission, who is spending some time with us, Madam Kathleen Adi. Welcome to the Pulse. Such a pleasure to have you in studio this time round, following our last conversation online. But of course, the days are drawing closer and closer. We know that the NCCE's, constitutional mandate is to promote the national, national discourse around all of these issues. What do you plan to do now that we're getting closer and closer to the election?
Thank you very much. But point of correction, we have not asked for increased political participation.
Right.
That's not what we're saying, right? We're saying that eventually, as a country, we must work ourselves to a point where we are electing the MMDCEs, the heads of the local government, must be elected. There's a gap in our governance structure, and it must be closed. Now, as to whether politicians get involved or that or not, it's really not for us to say. And because of the way that whole situation panned out the last time we were going to go on the referendum, it's very important that we make it clear that we've never taken the position that the election should be on a partisan or non-partisan basis. We are just saying that hopefully we get to a point where we are electing heads of local government so that it makes our decentralization agenda more meaningful.
I see. And probably when I talk of participation, the target is to, get more and more people to be part of the process,
which is to get more people to vote, but also importantly is to get more people to participate, to put themselves up to be elected. We need more upstanding, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens to take up the positions of running the assemblies. These are not paid jobs. And so anybody at all can do it, as long as you meet the qualifications. You are an upstanding citizen, you meet your tax obligations, you're a Ghanaian, of course, you have attained the age. You should be interested in how your community is run. And so, of course, at this point, we've gone past the point where we are now asking people to go and present themselves to be elected. At this point, we're asking people to go out and vote. As a citizen, your first contact, your first experience of democracy is at the local level. You will elect your MP. The MP will go to Accra because that's where their office is. The president's office is also in Accra. Assemblyman is in your community. Your unit committee member is right there with you. These people are supposed to receive your share of the District Assembly Common Fund, which is your share of the national cake. Right. And they are supposed to account for how those funds are spent to you. District assemblies are responsible for the running of communities, for streetlights, for small roadworks, for sanitation, all of these things, the regulations around noise management, everything, even collection of tolls and some taxes, you know. And so it's important that, you know, we are interested in how they run the community.
What's your own diagnosis of the problem and the reason for which, you know, over the years, we do not see a lot of Ghanaians show interest in the local level elections as compared to the general ones, you know, which has got to do with the election of parliamentarians and then the president?
Well, the way I see it, generally speaking, people want to be able to hold somebody accountable. And people feel more compelled to hold accountable somebody that they have elected. And that is why you see so much pressure on members of parliament, even though they are not development agents. But they elect the people have a stronger connection to them. And so because they elect them, they can go up to them and demand accountability for them, and even demand beyond what an MP is supposed to deliver. But the heads of local government are not elected. They are not their people, really. They don't connect to them in the same way. And I suppose if you are the heads of local government also do not have the same feeling of accountability towards the people. And so there's a disconnect there. That's why I started off by saying that there's a gap that needs to be closed. You know, so it's important to to elect your assembly members, hold them to account, let them work for you in the community. But it would have been better if we were electing the head of local government. That notwithstanding, the unit committees are the lowest form of the decentralized structure. They work in the community. Citizens are supposed to know these people, engage them, organize and let them come and tell you what they are doing. The unit committee members link up with the assembly members, and they go to the assembly to ensure that the needs of the community or the district are met. The assembly structure is a replication of the national governance structure. Right. So it's the same thing happening, but closer to you. So really, truly, it should be more attractive. Yeah. But it hasn't been to date, and it is our hope that this time round, there's a lot more work going into trying to drive in the vote, bringing attention to the general public, and for the first time, we are doing jingles.
I see. Just to promote.
We are doing jingles on Joy, you know. Yeah. So there's really a strong push to ensure that people go out there.
And we've been speaking to some of the aspirants. One of the key challenges they raise is also about funding. Yes. Perhaps the fact that you don't have the assembly member having access to funds for development. It's the reason for which the interest is not there, because it's not a paid job, as you were indicating earlier, and also the fact that based on the non-availability of these resources, they are not able to gather more and more people around them. So there's basically no interest.
Those are real concerns that must not be brushed under the carpet. Those are real concerns that must be addressed. There are so many reforms that we need to do in the local governance sector. Right. And these reforms are sort of part of the reason why we are stagnating at the local level when it comes to governance and participation. The reforms are needed. So many different things, including remuneration, including access to funding, including the fact that sometimes the District Assembly Common Fund is spent at the center rather than deployed to the districts. Yeah. And so they are sitting there and they don't even have the funding to work. All these things need to be addressed. But that notwithstanding, we still need to elect somebody. Yeah. We still need to elect somebody. If you have built your property, and there are neighborhoods in Accra where there are a very expensive property, you need to be interested in how your community is run. If you have built your homes and others have built squatters around your homes, illegal structures around your homes, where drains are not working, streets are not working, you should be interested in how these things are, because you also pay taxes. Yes, of course, but you pay taxes, you've invested in the community, you've built a home, you live in the community, your children go to school there, you need the place to be safe and secure. You must be interested in how the assembly is running the affairs of the community. Yeah. And for that reason, even with all the challenges that we face in local governance, we must still go out.
And since you're raising that point, let's then get to the civic action, what it is that we're expected to do as citizens, because many are watching and asking, well, the NCC comes around, tells us to go and participate in the exercise. But really, beyond the voting, what's expected of the average citizen to sustain this push that you're carrying out?
What do you mean?
In terms of what we need to do, basically, as citizens, to sustain the interest around decentralization?
Well, there's a lot of work to be done, and NCC has a big role in that work. And we are doing the best we can under the circumstances. This time around, we are giving it a real good push. Our staff are out there in the communities, in markets, in public places. We are on radio, we are doing jingles, we are going from church to church, mosque to mosque, reminding people of their civic responsibility to go and elect assembly members. We are doing a whole lot out there. It is our hope that citizens will respond to the call. Sometimes it's due to lack of an understanding, because a lot of people feel that even if we go and elect these people, we do not know what they do, we do not know how they serve us, but these are the people who are supposed to serve you. But sometimes, the understanding is not there, and that's why we are out there pushing hard, explaining to Ghanaians, trying to let people understand the important role that these officials play, and why we must ensure that we find the right people for the positions, and then we hold them to account.
Have you engaged, those who matter, the aspirants, and trying as much as possible to encourage them, even though there's no interest in following? Have you met some of them, and what are some of the personal stories
this time around, we didn't do a push in that direction, because we just couldn't do the push in that direction. We were rather focusing on getting citizens to go and vote. So that's the drive, that's the focus of it.
I'm asking the question because of, the special case for women. The case is being made that we need more women to also represent it.
That's the one area where we did a little bit of work around women, because, of course, when it comes to representation, you want to ensure that the elected officials look like the population, you understand?
The fair representation.
The fair representation, the population looks a certain way, the represented officials must look that way. Yeah. Women face extraordinary challenges, and putting yourself up for elected office in Ghana is very difficult. That's why people don't like to do. It's really tough. If you're a woman, your burden is double, triple, quadruple, because the challenges that you face are bigger than what others face. The financial challenge to start with, you understand. When it comes to access to resources, generally speaking, that's not to say that women don't have money all the time, but generally speaking, more men have money to spend on this than women do. That is a huge challenge, because without the resources, how do you go around? How do you talk to people? How do you engage people? Secondly, we have all these cultural norms, traditions that frown on women, taking up public office, being in the public space, for instance. And so all of that is also, inhibitory, where people are not so excited about it. And then there's also the culture of our politics, the fact that the politics is so toxic, politics of insults, politics and all of those things. Women tend to be more sensitive to the name calling and the false accusations and all of that. So there are all these obstacles that stand in the way of women. As much as possible, we must work together as a community to ensure that the represented cohorts actually look like those they are representing.
And one final leg would be the issue about choosing good leaders, which is part of the issues that you're concerned about. But we know that sometimes monetization plays a role.
Yes.
We don't have the evidence yet as to whether or not that's playing a role at the local level.
Yes.
But we want to avoid that.
We want to avoid that.
What's the message of the NCCE?
We want to avoid that. In fact, last year, when we did our media engagement on Constitution Day, 7 January, we raised the specter of monetization on our politics as a threat to our democracy. It's not just a threat to women, or it is an actual threat to the democracy, because for one thing, the money that is floating around in politics did not fall off some trees. It came from some place. That money will return to that place by any means necessary. And so we can't continue to allow this undisclosed sources of cash that we find being shared over them. We can't continue to. It's not sustainable, because at the end of the day, the money needs to go back to where it came from. Also, it defeats the whole purpose of the democracy, because you are supposed to be identifying and electing people who can deliver for you. But once they are paying for it, the dynamic is changing. It's no longer they are coming to serve you; they are coming to generate income. Right. You understand? So, in that way, we actually defeat the entire purpose of going out of our way to, start a fourth republic, only to come 30 years later to be so heavily monetized in the practice of the democracy. And so that's how it's part of how it constitutes a threat and defeats the purpose of the whole democracy that we are practicing.
I see. What would be your message to Ghanaians as we look forward to the exercise, and perhaps the aspirants who are also going into this year's election?
Well, to the aspirants, first, I want to congratulate them for stepping up, for being good citizens, because stepping up means that you've met all the criteria, including met all your tax obligations, the meaning that you are a good citizen. Putting yourself up for public office is not easy. So for them to step up and do that, we must respect them for that. We must congratulate them for that. Competition is also not easy, because somebody will win, somebody will lose, And if you lose, I can imagine that it's not a pleasant feeling or a pleasant experience. So to that extent, kudos to those who have stepped up and want to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem or part of the complaint. Part of the solution meaning that I see the problem and I've talked about it, and finally I'm putting myself in a position to actually do something about it. So we must congratulate them for that and tell them to focus and keep going at it. And if you lose this time around, doesn't mean that next time around don't keep going. Keep going. And develop your public policy skills, develop yourself, and grow in governance. We need strong governance practitioners in our governance setup.
Indeed, we
for
do
the
need
citizens, like I've mentioned before, it is important to go find out who these people are. Find out who these people are, who will be managing the common fund that comes to your assembly.
And what promises they are making.
And what promises they are making. Hold them to account. More importantly, let them work for you. Find them so that you can have a relationship with them, so you can tell them your challenges, your problems in the district, and put pressure on them to deliver on their promise to serve you.
Indeed, that's the message. And in fact, if you lose, don't worry. Kathleen Adi is a mother figure. She will be welcoming you and of course comforting you while you stand for another round of the elections. But we're grateful so much for spending some time with us. So we hope to see you again, of course, when the elections draw closer. And of course, a lot is happening already, because constituents of the Ahimbrunnom North electoral area in the Ashanti region are lamenting the persistent practice of open defecation, exposing them to high health risk. Of course, community members say that the assembly over the years have failed to help them improve the situation. They believe electing a woman for the first time in the upcoming district level elections can improve their situation. Anita Sewa Ajagan engaged Hawa Mohammed on her chances as the first lady to contest in the district level elections. There's more.
Residents at Old Tafo Municipal Assembly bemoan the increasing practice of open defecation in the municipality due to lack of proper toilet facilities. One public toilet serves the municipality. Community members are disappointed with the lack of effort of assemblymen elected over the years to improve sanitation. They are hoping to elect a woman in the upcoming district level election for the first time to improve the sanitation crisis.
There's not enough public toilets in this neighborhood or this electoral area, and as a result of that, open defecation has been going on in this electoral area. If Honorable Hawa Mohammed is elected into office, I know her can do spirit, because even as her position right now, not even elected as any assemblywoman, or she's not even having any portfolio or any position. She's even fighting hard for us to get as much as more public toilets in this electoral area.
Nti ahokyere pa ye wa ahokyere pa wo toilet papa o mu no ba sore na polity na egugu wonim ho na polity na egugu efie nchen ya ne de egugu
For
the past 8 years, the current assemblyman hasn't been able to curtail open defecation.
The sanitation situation in Ghana is very poor, with only 25% having access to basic services. About 57% use shared or public facilities, and 18% still engage in open defecation. Poor sanitation conditions pose serious public health risk. According to the World Health Organization, 7,653 deaths in Ghana were caused by wash-related illness in 2019. Ahembronum North electoral area is one of the communities practicing open defecation. Hawa Mohammed, the first lady to contest the district-level election in the area, plans to end open defecation at Old Tafo Municipal Assembly.
Not having a public toilet, if by the grace of God they vote me into the office, the first thing that I'm going to do is the public toilet for the neighborhood.
The Alliance for Women in Media is, however, worried about the low participation and representation of women in Ghanaian politics and governance, despite they constituting more than half of the country's population. Hawa Mohammed is hoping to change the narrative.
And the history of Ahimbronun, even the whole Tafu, I'm the first female who came out boldly to contest the assembly elections. I'm hoping by the grace of God, I'm going to win, inshallah.
For Joy News, Anita Sewa-Joga's report read to you.
Well, Joy News has also been reaching out to more aspirants through our colleague Christian Abochi, who's been interacting with some aspiring assembly members, finding out their challenges ahead of this year's district-level elections. There's more.
Goal here is to simply understand what their role is as assembly members, if they're able to fulfill them, why or what the challenges are in the course of executing their roles, and how we ensure that come 19th December, voters turn out to vote in the district level elections. Thank you, honorable members, for joining us for this brief conversation. Let's start simply with the question: what do you do as an assembly member?
My name is Honorable Nathaniel Welbeck. I think we implement the law, you understand. When you talk about development, we are supposed to make sure the electoral area is developed. But the question is, are the logistics available? Are the logistics available? That is a challenge. But we are trying our best. When you talk about electoral area projects, we have to push, we have to fight, we have to argue before you can even get one.
So it's not a situation of you are not doing the job. It's a situation of lack of resources.
Resources, you understand? The resources are not coming forth. You understand? But when you go to my electoral, for instance, Banana, we're looking for a footbridge. I've done it for them. Old Dansoman. We're looking for drains, you know, I've done it for them. When you go to Inkunkpotoy, you understand, I've done it for them. When you go to Kamara last stop, I've done it for them.
How are you able to finance these projects? If you say you have done it, does it mean that the money did not come from government coffers?
Oh, of course. We have to push from the government, you understand. We really fought, you understand. For 4 years that we've been in office, we really fought for us to get even one. You understand? So we are trying our best.
I'll come to you again briefly.
The framers of the Constitution
deemed it as an opportunity for us to also take development to the very barriers of the grassroots. But looking at how the implementation has been done, it looks like in one way or the other we've not been able to do it well as people, because you have the local person there who is not paid anything at the end of the month, but yet
at all. I thought as assembly members you receive some allowances or salary. What does the funds that you get look like? Is it allowances on monthly basis, or how does it come in?
Okay, it's sitting allowance for meetings. So it means when you don't show up at a meeting, you don't get anything. So you can just imagine, because you are on 2 committees, most recently it's been increased to 3. And then when we joined the assembly from 2020, the money being given for a sitting allowance was around 236 cedi. Yeah. Until recently, before it was moved to like 400 cedi just this year, latter part of this year. So you can just imagine. And
that's all the money you get?
Exactly.
No, so you don't have any monies for developmental projects and programs for your communities?
My brother made mention of electoral area projects, and even that, it doesn't come to you. You identify a challenge in your community based on your engagement with your community people. And then after you are done with your scale of preference, you select the one that is most pressing, and then you give it to the works department. And then they will come to the area to come and then execute the program for you. What you are able to do as an assembly member is your engagement with probably your external partners, probably friends, and if there's an NGO who is willing to come to an area to come in and support you, whatever you want to do in the area. And that is the only time you get to do something beyond what the assembly is able to do.
We are trying our best. Like my brother said, we have either external partners who normally comes in to support. So what I can say is, although the challenge is big, but definitely we'll get there.
Typically, what is the range of budget allocated for these electoral area developments once per year? You don't have to mention the specific figure if you're not comfortable doing that, but what is the range that you usually receive?
Within 15,000 to 25,000.
The question about how you run campaigns, and I want to pose this to you because you haven't spoken in a while. How do you fund your campaigns? Is it partisan? Is it that you belong to a certain political party and they are funding your campaign because you directly or indirectly have a role to play in the selection of other leaders into the next level of local government? How do you fund your campaigns?
For me, it's a miracle, you know. It's a miracle, you know.
Please,
yes, we do have chiefs, we do have our brothers. And one thing that I normally do is to sometimes lobby, you understand, and it's helping me a lot. When we talk about political party, I don't think so.